Alright, so my stuff came in. I got my crankshaft. It came with the new rod bearings. It is an Enginetech. You can see it in there, the Enginetech. Like the last engine I rebuilt, I got the Enginetech crank. Worked out fine from Rock Auto. I didn't get the reman. It is a reman. I didn't get the other option where I had to send the core back. So this is the expensive one. So I got my plastic gauges. We're going to check oil clearances because I do have to order 2 more rods because I only have 2 Bs. I've checked the specs with a caliber and got the bore diameter. So I wrote that on the inside here, and I don't, so I'll measure it when I get the other ones and make sure they're fine. But when I was saying earlier in the previous video that just because the rod bearings didn't fit in there right was simply because of the excessive heat buildup on the crank from lack of oil. And if without the oil, it's going to create friction, which will cause it to essentially friction weld itself to the crank, and that's why we got a locked up seized motor. So these bearings fit really good in here, and I'm going to pull one out and show you. I just had to check myself. I got a plastic gauge cut out, so we're going to check the oil clearances. And I'm going to show you the pistons also that came, and these were Enginetech. So unlike the standard ones that only have one indentation, like this one has 2, which is okay because they are the same standard size. They aren't any different. They're just aftermarket. So the skirts here you can see are treated, so these are a lot more beautiful than the other ones, a lot more appealing, and our wrist pin goes in real smooth unlike the last one. So it do come with rings, and you know what, I think I wound up no, because I had to order a separate ring set because it didn't come with rings, so it didn't come in the box. These when you order the pistons, they only come with the wrist pins and the pistons, no rings. So I did order a separate standard ring set from Enginetech also to match. So yeah, should give you a description here. So these are our compression rings. So we got 1 top groove, 2nd groove, and then we have the oil. So here are those. So these have to go in this particular way because of how they're shaped, and the oil really wouldn't make a difference unless you got the spring that's in the middle. But I'll show you those. All right, we're going to check the oil clearances on the rod end caps here. So we're going to check the compression fitting on how it sits on the journal for the rod here. So that, now I'm pretty sure it's going to be mixed opinions about this. I know it's not that accurate, but I'm not gonna put any oil on here, so I'm pretty sure we'll be fine. And a little bit of rotation is not going to kill anybody, and it's very slick here. So, but when you torque these down, it's 18 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. But I'm going to leave it here, stationary as it is. It shouldn't be that hard. I should have enough leverage just to go additional 90 degrees. I'm going to assume it's probably going to be like maybe 25, 27 foot-pounds total torque. I don't know. I'm just conjecture here. All right, so let's get to it. I mean, I want to show you how the old ones fit in here, but they're gone. They're somewhere in Narnia. I don't know where I ditched them, but they are ditched. I'm going to try to make this as clean as possible. I also marked the placement of this cap here. So this needs to be facing, if you see this protrusion here, this needs to be facing the number 1. On the other side where my finger is, those are the grooves or indentions for the keyways where my timing gear go. So that part needs to be facing number 1. Alright, so we got, if I can pull this out without losing these. One strip right here. Simply place that here. Probably need to cut it to where it sits evenly. This is not a good idea. Don't do this. Sit right there. I'm simply going to put my rod cap on here. And I should have took the rod off. Totally my fault. Not the rod, but the I should have separated the piston, but I didn't. Again, I had to take the piston off because that did not fit well at all. So I got the plastic gauge just sitting in there, and now it's holding in place because I partially had it compressed. So I'm going to go down since it'll be easier. Now again, these only go one way, and you can't screw this up. So it has to go in that lock. Those dials have to go into place. So we're going to face this to number 1 and get my dials lined up. I will say this is a really tight fit. Alright. Run my bolts down. I got my torque wrench. I'm just going to use a 3/8 torque wrench. So I'm going to go to 18 foot-pounds. It's 10, 15. About 18. I'm just going to go to 19. It's not a big deal. And 90 degrees. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now I do have a degree wheel, but it's like the position. I am not going to use that degree wheel for this. So I'm going to use some whiteout and just be as close as I can to have a reference. And then I'm going clockwise. I'm just going to simply go 90 degrees. So we're going to cut it in 4 pieces here. You got 90. If this is 90 up and down, I'm sorry, 180 up and down, then half of that's going to be 90. Let's see if I can. That's close. All right, we'll go to 90. That's close enough right there. It's not going to be 100%. And I'm simply just going to break it loose. Take my impact gun and have at it. A lot of movement there. I'm going to take this off. And it is pretty thick. But little I can see down here, I'm going to take this measurement device is millimeter, I need inches. So we should be somewhere around 1,000ths and just a little bit shorter than 1,000ths. And we're pretty much like right there at it. So I don't have no doubt these clearances are where they need to be. I mean, it's okay to be a little wider, closer to 15,000ths. I mean, that's fine as long as you're not, because 2,000ths will be right at the service limit, somewhere around about that, and we're nowhere near 2,000ths, nowhere near it. So we're good. I don't have any doubt that this is not within specifications. I heard you can leave this stuff on there, but I'm gonna take some brake cleaner, wipe this off. Like so. That's perfect. I'm gonna wipe it off my rod here. So we're good, man. I'm not gonna worry about checking all the other ones. I will check the new ones when I get them in stock. What I need to know was if I needed to order B or A. We got this. Well, it's gonna be on this one. It's on the larger rod. This is the one I need if I was to order another rod. So I'm gonna order all B's, which is gonna be okay. Since again, these didn't spin, these were 3 and 4. They were on the verge just because the bearing didn't fit that well doesn't mean that the rods are bad. They didn't show any signs of spinning inside, and these new bearings fit very good in here. And I guess you have to look at the old video, but I'm gonna pull one out and we can take a look at it. These fit really good. Because the other ones just basically fell in there. This one has a lot of springiness to it. It has a lot of good resistance. They're not coming out. It's not coming out. We're good. All right, I'm gonna show you how to put the pistons on here too while I got this one off. All right, so I got another connector rod I have not done anything to. And like I was relaying earlier, you have the dot here that I put whiteout in. This face is number 1, or the timing chain components. Then you have a line here, a protrusion at the bottom of the rod cap that also has a face I put the whiteout on. They don't come with whiteout. So here's your specifics, your marks, your orientations to where everything needs to go in a specific order. The dots face timing chain, the bottom of the rod cap faces the timing chain. So it's even on the larger portion. Look at the bottom here and the top. They favor. And you get a number or a letter. If you divide these two up, like this one makes a C. If you take this off, that C is going to be divided. You put them together, it'll make a letter. So you got a lot of reference points here. So when you install these, if the oil rings are 3 and you have the top piston ring as 1, then 2 must go in the middle. Obviously, it's a little common sense here. So I just numbered them from the bottom to top, or top to bottom, however you want to decide to read it. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So that's how I was going to go from top to bottom. There's my little arrow. So that's how we're going to put them in. And to face it the appropriate direction, we have our 2 dots here. And our 2 dots need to correspond with our notches, or our indentions. I said indentions, the protruded areas to face the timing chain. So it's going to face like that. So you can't screw this up really, but you can. You can and you can't. So I'm going to pull this out. And again, these are Enginetech pistons. They were about $40 off of Rock Auto. Like I said, I put them in the other vehicles. It's a standard size. This is not bored over. They work perfectly fine. That car has been running for over 3 years now, strong, because I rebuilt it. Hopefully I can do the same with this one. Let's see here. You know, the more you go through, the more human error you got, the more likely something's going to go wrong. So what am I doing? We're pulling the wrist pin out here. The box came with wrist pins, the wrist pin retainers. So you got the piston rod, the wrist pin, and the retainers here for those wrist pins. Now, these do flick and go everywhere when you pull them out, so it'll be a good idea to save what you can, because if you put one in and it gets lost in space somewhere, you have something to go back to. I'm just going to take one off, like that one. So I'm going to pull one out. Pull this marker here. So that's out and gone. Now ideally you want to put oil in it. Yeah, I'll do that later. I just want to show you how to do it, but it probably would be a good idea if you want to put it in there. Go ahead and put oil in it. Let me just put a little film on it. I got old assembly lube. I had this for years, and so I just put a little dab on here. Everything should be clean. I had this forever, man. I swear I had this for probably about, when I had it, I had my old school Accord, man. That was well over 12 years. So it's like it's an assembly lube. That's all this is. Oh shit! Golly. Don't worry, it goes through a lot more stress inside the car. Wipe that off and start over. I am not perfect. Remember that. I'm not even going to edit it out. Yeah, we're fine. Don't worry, it goes through a lot more stress inside the car when an explosion occurs. So you're to power your butt to propel that vehicle. Say that right. Alright, so let's find our dots here. Let me just put white out on it so we'll know what I'm talking about. It's that needs to be facing this way or this way. You take a guess. I think we put it in this way. No? Oh yeah, you're right. Alright. So like I was telling you a while ago, the good thing about these pistons is that they float. So that helps a lot with optimizing power. Alright, we're gonna put this in there. And it slides right on in there. Just makes more sense to go in that little groove and push it in there because you have room to get it out. And then push down on it and go on the opposite side. Notice where that indentation is there. I and compress the spring, this little clip, and get myself out of that sticky situation. Just like that. Just make sure they go in their seats. There's a groove in there, and they are good to go. Just like that. So we have our dots lined up properly. And now we can put on the outer rings. Now, ideally, you're supposed to check clearances on them. And you know what? I don't have my block because guess what? It's at the machine shop. So I can't do nothing about that. Now, when you install these oil rings, they go in a specific order. You have these little springy looking rings. These go in the middle. You have what look like miniature compression rings. They go between that. And you know what? It comes with directions. Alright. So we're gonna put the oil rings in there first. I don't know Calaburga or whatever the hell it is. I don't know Arabic. I don't know none of this stuff. So we got the piston rings. All right, so we got like little notches on our piston rings here. Look for a dot or a lesser mark on either side of the ring gap to determine which side of the ring is on the top side. A ring with no dot, quote unquote, top or lesser mark will signify a ring can be installed either way. TOP, top, does not indicate the piston ring groove location. Alright, so basically just because it says top on the ring, if it's written on there, it doesn't mean that it goes at the very top, such as the number 1. So this says number 1. Let's take a look at this one, what it has. It should have a dot. And this actually has nothing. So these can go either way. But it says number 1, so this is going to go at the top. Alright, let's look at the number 2. Not to confuse you. This is supposed to go in the middle. But let's see if this ring looks totally different. Come on, because they were two meshed together. It says number 2, and here we have a dot there. There's a lesser mark. And if you're not sure, pull another one out. And they all have those little dots on there. So let me go back to my other one here and make sure that this number 1 didn't have a dot in that same location. Double check, triple check. Just make sure we're not putting things in the wrong location. So this can go either way. And I'm just gonna inspect all my rings and make sure they don't have a lesser mark or a dot or some type of indication on it. So let's try another one. 2 out of 4 is not bad. So this is going to number 1. And here's number 2. But first we're going to put our oil rings on there. And it does have directions of how these are supposed to be placed. If you look at the waviness, I'm going to draw it because I don't think it showed up that well. And I can't find my pen. Here we go. Look at the bottom down here. I'm going to do this the best I can. Alright, that's how this looks when you look up close at the oil ring here. Make sure I don't get these. Yep, I got one right there. Make sure I don't get these confused because I will fuck some shit up, I tell you. So, at the top of the engine, caution, 2mm oil ring installed with gap towards the top. Alright, let's read that again. 2mm oil ring installed with gap toward top of piston. So the gap needs to be facing towards the top. So I can turn it upside down like this. The way I'm looking at it, it's like this. This is so how these supposed to be installed. Can we see my artistic work down there? So this is wrong. Let me just go for the X and check right there. So they're not supposed to be facing down when you put them on the ring like this. They're supposed to be facing up. Alright, from what the directions state. And that's how we're going to install them. Alright, let's put these rings in here. And what I like to do, I like to put my O-rings in there first, the correct way. And then I put they don't need to be butted together. They don't need to be, interlocked or anything. It just needs to be butted together. That's it. And we're going to go to the, wait a minute. Oh, am I tripping? Oh, also, I don't know what the other rings at. These are compression looking rings. I don't know the technical names of them, but they look like compression rings, but they're very miniature. Alright, and these are going to go in one spot only. But let's look at the top of these, make sure they're not marked to go in a specific location, and these are not, so they go either or. Like I said, I like to put my O-ring in there first, and simply go on the bottom. Be very gentle. I'm pretty sure people can use like an O-ring installer tool thingy. Okay, if you want to go to the top, that's fine. Alright, it's set itself at the top first, no big deal. Just make sure everything's fine. And now I'm going to go to the bottom one. The plan was to work my way from the bottom to the top. But you can't put these in the compression side. I mean, you can't screw this up. I mean, they are just not going to fit that way. And this fits perfect. It's in there like it's supposed to. I just want to show you that you can't put a compression ring in there. Which one is this one? This is the top, number 1. So we'll just put these off to the side here. Both 3s are done. And this is number 2. So we're going to go off with 2, because this one had the dot, and the dot indicates that it needs to be at the top. Alright, I'm going to do the last one to show you that they can't go in any other order. The compression rings, that is. Well, you can look at it and tell. Alright. Now, technically, you're supposed to check the end gap, meaning that you put the rings inside of the bore, the cylinder bore, and check the end gap of these. Alright. And I will tell you, I did not do it for the other one, and it works perfectly fine, but you're supposed to double check yourself. Now here's the top compression ring here. This one was either or, because it did not have the notch or the lower lesser point as the second compression ring did. And again, this can only go in one spot. You cannot fit a compression ring with the O-ring. It is not going to happen. So I'm going to put this one simply at the top, and that's it. Now here's what they say. These compression rings are not supposed to be fitting. The gaps are not supposed to be uniform. They're not supposed to be lined up with each other. However, I'm pretty sure at some point, if by the logic of piston rings and how things operate in a vehicle, these rotate. Now, if these rotate, I'm pretty sure they hit the same points. Okay, but you want to ideally have these in the opposite direction, so that way when you install the pistons, you don't have compression seepage, and you don't have excessive blow-by, which could potentially have problems, or a slight loss of compression in the cylinder. So these need to be facing opposite directions. The ring gaps need to be facing opposite direction. It doesn't apply to the oil ring, but wouldn't hurt to ensure that they're sitting opposite also. But this is how we're doing it. Now look at our marks. Everything is lined up from there to there. So we're good. This is ready to be installed, and I'm going to put everything back like it was. I can do another rod probably should do a rod really quick since this is done. Just because I can show you how fast it is. Where's that other one at? Here you go, right here. Alright, let's do another one. Leave that bearing in there, they're going to be out here anyway. Man, this stuff is tacky. It don't take much, you just need a little bit in here to ensure that when you start the car up, after several rotations, it is capable of retaining its lubricity. So, you know what? Might not be a bad idea. Throw one of these in there. Now, it's not a bad idea if you lose one, use an old retainer for the wrist pins. It's not going to kill your motor. It's not like using an old bearing. Oh shit. I'm dripping. I got the O-ring in one of the second compression groove. We got two, so let's work our way from the bottom up. Here's our dot. Here's our number one, which doesn't matter. Direction. This does not apply to all other vehicles. You have to check your manufacturer specification. Make sure you put everything in the proper order. But that was it. I mean, it took what, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So now, like I said, you're supposed to check the ring gap, and I would definitely do that if I was anyone else, just to make sure that everything's fine. Even though I did not do that, just don't take some things I say as a grain of salt. See, like this, look, like this screw right here, this O-ring didn't go in there that well. And if you're like compressing them to put them in the vehicle, this could definitely cause some potential problems like broken rings. But I want to take that back out. When you put it in compression, the ring compressor, when you go to install a piston, then you just want to make sure everything is able to compress, so it'll work out fine. All right. Like I said, I'm gonna wait on my other stuff to get here, and then I'll go back over. Well, I think the next video would be just me assembling everything, because mainly, you know, something like this, I can show you little quick stuff. I mean, it's still going to cut a lot of time than just the general installation. And all I got to do is really go over the timing marks, torque specs when installing the motor. So I think we'll be fine. You don't have to use assembly lube, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the opinions really going to greatly vary. Everybody have their own opinions about it. I've seen people put engine oil when assembling motors. I've personally done it, never had any problems. Grease, I've seen people do it. Gear oil. So I mean, as long as this gear oil seems to be fine. I mean, as long as it's tacky, it's not gonna liquefy and just make a mess of things when you're repairing it. That's the whole point of having the assembly lube. I mean, it'll hold under normal 70-degree conditions, probably even 100-degree conditions, and it's not going to melt. So it's going to stay put as long as the engine's in a moderate climate, probably even high temperatures. So we don't have to worry about it just liquefying to the point where it's just going to fall off the bearing, and it's not going to have adequate lubrication on the first startup. So, and to each his own. I'm not going to sit there and down somebody for putting the motor together and using engine oil, because when you start the car up, what do you think happens after a car that sits for years? What do you think happened when we get engines from the junkyard that's been sitting for several months to a year and it has never been started up? When you pull a motor apart, when you pull those bearings apart, there's still oil in the space between the rod bearings and the journals. It may not be enough oil for individuals that's a perfectionist, but unfortunately, you know, life is not perfect. Engines aren't perfect, and things are not going to run as like we want it. So I mean, but point being, I'm not going to down somebody for using engine oil for putting these together. You have something's better than nothing. I don't even care if a person uses Vaseline. I've heard of the old school vehicles being packed with Vaseline, so to aid in increasing the pump pressure to pick up the oil. But you know, I don't have to deal with that. I was born in '86, so new tech stuff, how the oil pumps are designed now, we ain't gotta do nothing like that nowadays. But I ain't gonna hold you up. I'll sit here and talk all freaking day, man. I'll talk all freaking day. I mean, this is a simple, just a standard motor, nothing special. I mean, it's not a race engine. I mean, I would assume anybody can freaking put a motor together. This is nothing. To me, hell, putting a Volkswagen motor together looks nearly impossible. Yeah, but you know, everything that I don't do is difficult to me. So, all right, man. Hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed. Had a real show some more work. See you on the next one. All right. So the video is over with, but I'm gonna put this in the intro. I have, oh shoot, oh, I thought I lost my wristband. I have the new Enginetech pistons here that I just ordered from Rock Auto, and I just want to just do a quick comparison, you know, to see what they look like in comparison to what is standard. Now the dealership, oh gosh, the dealership has went over this vehicle a while ago and put new rings and oil rings on it. Now what happens with these motors is that the oil ring, like this one, is really compressed. It'll foul out so bad that oil cannot, it can't maintain adequate compression to push out on the wall to keep oil from getting inside the combustion chamber. And this is kind of like what we got going on now with this one. But I've seen them pretty bad, the where it was literally caked up inside of there. I need to take a but I just was curious if I can get them out of here. So here's our oil ring here. This is the old piston. I'm gonna get rid of these. Now, are these passages stopped up? No. But I am curious to see what the differences is with the Enginetech versus the standard. These are definitely heavier. You know what? Let's find out. Food scale here. I got the wristband out because I know why it was heavier. But we're still going to weigh it anyway since I got it out here. Here's the standard piston. And we have 11.1 ounces. And here's the aftermarket one. It's 10.3 ounces. Not sure if that will help with reliability, but if it's a lighter piston, the damn thing should like make a lot of power, right? It's less work. So let's take a better look at the inside of this on the aftermarket one versus the new aftermarket versus factory one. One difference probably might notice is, let me see here, it's the hole for the oil. Yeah, those feel about the same. Now if you look at the bottom of the piston here, the base is recessed, and I wonder if that has, like, there's 4 of them now here. Look at that. Unlike the factory one, it isn't. Now, being that the vehicle the block has oil squirters, I wonder if they're designed to help get fresh oil in there to prevent the fouling or the accumulation of old oil that will cause it to develop sludge or just to build up. So it for one, it can drain off. I mean, if the oil comes here and it pushes down, it can come out and drain off down here, so it wouldn't collect. So this is likely going to be an improvement. And this is one of the reasons why, you know, people were like, well, you know, aftermarket parts are bad. Not really, because just as the factory part had a bad part, like it was poor quality, you had somebody else to be able to improve it for it to work a lot better. You know, likely if this factory piston had a better drain, it could have potentially prevented that problem from manifesting to begin with. And that's probably why the rings, even though these were done, she said about a couple years ago, these oil rings were still likely to occur, have the same occurrence of the oil consumption problem, because they were already difficult to get off. They weren't movable. So and that's why I'm like, you know, people are like, well, you know, put aftermarket quality junk on there, yeah, you're gonna have some problem. Now I'm pretty sure, I'm not saying it's not just blatant like all aftermarket parts are bad, but the aftermarkets will have the fix in some cases. Even though they're not as expensive as the dealer, they're not dealer quality, but I highly doubt you're going to have dealer problems with this aftermarket part. Just saying. So it's unfortunate that we get bad aftermarket parts. However, you know, you get enough dealer parts, you're going to start having problems too. So, but hey, well, you know, what do you do about it? So, but that was an obvious difference. The weight is a little lighter, and I know I did have a wrist pin in there, so I was heavier, but we still got a weight on it. Even though the skirts are deteriorated, that's probably what's taking some of the weight off also. But that's not aluminum. You know, but then again, who knows? I don't know.